Here at Swiss Watch Expo, we love the Cartier Santos Dumont. It's one of the oldest watches, one of the first watches ever produced. And this modern version that Cartier just came out with in 2022 is one of the neatest iterations of it that we've ever seen coming up. So in 2022, Cartier came out with a version of the Santos Dumont that were in 3 different versions that were very limited in production, and they all featured some lacquer. Now, the Santos Dumont was invented by Louis Cartier back in 1904 for his friend Alberto Santos-Dumont, who was a Brazilian aviator, worldwide crazy famous kind of guy because he flew his aircraft right down the drag in Paris for the world to see, where the Wright brothers had kind of kept their flights secretive. They were trying to figure out a way to make some money off of flight and airlines, and who knows what they were thinking in their minds. But Alberto Santos-Dumont did it publicly earlier than the Wright brothers did. So for a lot of the world, if you ask them who was first in flight, they'll say Alberto Santos-Dumont. Interesting guy. There's a book out there that I read called On Wings of Madness that's about how he's one of those guys that was so crazy smart that he kind of went crazy at the end of his life. But it's a really interesting story. So we recommend that if you're a real fan of the Santos Dumont watch. But the Santos Dumont, not only was it therefore considered like the first aviator watch, the first modern wristwatch, but it is something that is just steeped through the DNA of Cartier. And when you look at their entire line, you see the same square shape, the screw heads exposed on the bezel that represent some of the rivets on the Santos Dumont aircraft. Over and over, you'll see these cues, but it's really interesting how they will freshen up the line, they'll change something about it and come up with something that makes it look completely fresh. And when we look at this one, it is a stainless steel watch with black lacquer. So the series that they came out with in 2022, there were 250 pieces in rose gold with a cream lacquer and 150 pieces in platinum with a burgundy lacquer. But this one gives the best contrast of the 3. And the stainless steel, this is the best one to me. And what's interesting about it is that it's not like a completely blacked out watch that has ADLC or a PVD coating or something like that. You can see that there's a lot of bright work still on this watch. So what the lacquer does, it's not that it blacks out everything the way a blacked out watch would. It's that it emphasizes the lines and the case and the design of the watch. So really interesting. The steel one was not a limited edition to a certain number, but here in January of 2024, it's no longer on the Cartier website, so it's not being sold anymore. But we still have this absolutely mint one. You can see the strap doesn't even look like it's ever been on anyone's wrist. It's still available here at Swiss Watch Expo. Give us a call though, and we'll see if we still have it when you're ready to make your purchase. The size of the watch is called large. Now Cartier, they tend to use sort of fuzzy terms like large and extra large and jumbo and small to describe their watches, but they're not really related to each other. So when we look at this one, the size on it, it's 31.4 millimeters wide. It's 43.5 lug to lug, but only 7.3 thick. The movement in it, it's the 430 MC, so it's an in-house handcrafted manufactured caliber movement. Cartier is part of the Richemont group, which also owns Piaget. The movement is based on one of the ultra-thin hand-wound mechanical movements from Piaget. But I love the design of the watch. When you're looking at it, of course, it's a sapphire crystal. It's water resistant to 30 meters, so you don't have to worry about it getting splashed if you get in the rain or accidentally put your hand under the faucet. But it is a hand-wound mechanical movement. It's got a power reserve of about 38 hours. No second hand, no date. It just does what it's supposed to, hours and minutes. That's all you need. The dial has a textured section in the center, and then the applied numerals with a railway track around the edge printed. So there's really not much else to say about the watch as far as the design goes. One thing I like is that it has the Cartier Ardian C Tang buckle. On the back, we have the Santos Dumont signature. And so that really sets it up for success. When you look at the watch, even though Cartier calls it large, it's not a really big watch, but at the same time, it wears probably more like about a 35 or 36 millimeter round watch, because square watches just in general, they cover more area than a round watch does. So it's not a tiny watch. It's certainly not like the tank watches of yesteryear that were really small. When you look at this one on the wrist, I think that it really goes almost even dressier than the gold Santos Dumont, or certainly the steel Santos Dumont that doesn't have any lacquer on it. Beautiful watch. Can't recommend it more highly. Penny and I talked about that you have to see it to believe it. The pictures on the website don't really show this sparkle that you get from the bright work on it. And definitely a watch that I didn't think I was going to like when I just saw it on the Cartier website in 2022, but seeing it now in person, it's a real winner.